This
excited to open
conference will now be recorded.
uh, the Coordinating Council is excited to open our admin today with a fellow Kansan and chairman of the Federal Communications Commission and Kansas City Chiefs fan, Ajit Pai. So, Maureen, if you would show the video from Chairman Pai, please.
Yes. Here you go.
Hey, everybody. Fire, sometimes without you, our communities would be less safe and we would all feel less secure. I cannot thank you enough for your service to the American public. Now, on the whole, America's 911 workers do an amazing job. Not surprisingly, Kansas is at the forefront of the pack. Back in 2016, I visited a PSAP in Wichita. I was impressed to see that they were ahead of the national curve when it came to things like implementing next generation 911. They were also integrating new technologies with other key elements of the emergency communications ecosystem, including FirstNet and emergency alerts. We've seen this embrace of innovative technological solutions on display during the pandemic. Working with AT&T, for instance, the Kansas 911 Coordinating Council equipped a police trailer to be used as a mobile PSAP that could fill in if any Kansas call center had equipment had to be temporarily closed. Because of efforts like these, I don't think this is pretty much the Patrick Mahomes of the nation's 911 system. Now, as a native Kansan, I clearly have a reputation to uphold when it comes to pushing cutting-edge technology to improve the effectiveness of emergency response. And I'm proud to say that the FCC is doing its best to live up to this obligation. In 2019, the FCC took a major step to help first responders quickly locate people who are calling from help from multi-story buildings. We adopted a vertical or Z-axis location accuracy metric of plus or minus 3 meters for wireless 911 calls. And just this summer, we went a step further to require nationwide wireless providers to deploy Z-axis technology by April of 2025. This latest effort will ensure that vertical location is available to consumers everywhere, not just in the largest markets. In 2019, we also adopted rules to ensure that dispatchable location information, such as the street address, floor level, and room number of a 911 caller, is conveyed with 911 calls to dispatch centers, regardless of the technological platform used. We also harmonized our wireless dispatchable location rules so that, as of January 6th of 2022, wireless providers will be required to provide dispatchable location for wireless 911 calls when feasible. And then there are our new rules to help ensure that people who call 911 from multi-line telephone systems, which commonly serve hotels and office buildings and campuses and the like, can reach 911 directly without having to dial an access code like 9. This will help them be located by first responders more quickly. These rules also contain a notification requirement. When a 911 call is made in these settings, a front desk or security office will be alerted so that they are ready to facilitate building entry by first responders. Next up, we've got a new effort to shore up finances for 911. Between 2012 and 2018, states diverted over $1.275 billion with a B dollars in fees collected for 911 services to non-911 purposes. This terrible phenomenon, known as fee diversion, threatens public safety by siphoning away the funds needed to maintain and upgrade 911 systems. I recently proposed an FCC inquiry into the effects of 911 fee diversion and the steps the Commission or others could take to discourage states from diverting 911 fees. On September 30th, the FCC will vote on moving forward with that inquiry. And in my opening, I talked about how 911 workers are essential to public safety, how you keep our communities safer. You should take these words as praise, but also as a challenge. You have one of the toughest and most important jobs there is. You have to be on every moment to ensure that you are there for the American people when they most need help. Long-term planning that you're doing this week will help to make sure that you are ready in those moments of crisis. So thank you again for putting in the hard work. Your sacrifice and dedication inspire us all. Always remember, as long as I'm at the FCC, you have an ally in Washington who will help you help others. Keep up the great work and have a great workshop.
All righty, thank you. We had a little bit of technical difficulty with that video, but like Maureen said earlier, you can find that on the access there at Mo 911, and we'll play that if you would like again later on. The next video that we have is from Lori Flaherty. She is the coordinator of the National 911 Program Office at the U.S. Department of Transportation. So let's go ahead and cue up that those words from Lori.
Okay, thank you, Josh. And I apologize, I muted myself and that muted your speaker. And we have the video uploaded there for you guys to play again. We're also going to play Ajit and Lori at the Legislative Roundtable in the beginning of that session. And both of these recordings are in your system to play. If you want a copy, you can also contact Lori Alexander for a copy of the video. Okay? Off we go. Mm-hmm.
My name is Lori Flaherty, and I am the coordinator of the National 911 Program. It's sort of the federal home for 911 issues. And if you're not familiar with the program, Congress gave us 3 jobs. The first job is to coordinate the efforts of the 911 community and bring you together to decide for yourselves how to move forward on a variety of issues. The second job is to collect and create resources for folks like you who actually operate the nation's 911 system. And the third job is to administer a grant program specifically for the deployment of next generation 911. We do that with our partners at the Department of Commerce. Thank you very much for the chance to talk with you today as you start your strategic workshop, albeit virtually. I really appreciate the opportunity to do that. And first of all, congratulations. You've done a lot in Kansas. You have made great accomplishments. You're one of the forerunners in terms of deploying technology. And as you move forward on your strategic workshop, we tend to focus on the piece of road ahead of us. But just for a few minutes, think about all the road that you have covered, all the ground that you've covered, because that's important. You have accomplished great things, and that may be helpful to understand all the things that you're capable of as you're moving forward. And as you're moving forward, just a couple of thoughts. You've done a lot within your state, but as you move forward, you may want to start thinking about what happens beyond your borders. There are a lot of other states that are thinking about interconnection issues, integrating with their neighbors around them. Ultimately, we want to end up with an NG911 system of systems. And we have just produced and posted Chapter 3 of what we're calling the Interstate Playbook. There are 2 groups of states that are jurisdictions that are working together on a variety of issues related to integration. And their lessons that they have learned may be really useful to you as you consider how to move forward in that realm. Second, it'll be important to measure your progress. And I know that you have services available to you that help you collect and analyze 911 data. How you use that data in the future will become more and more important as you make the business case for the investments that you would like to make, and as you provide the evidence of your accomplishments to justify those investments. Thank you very much. I know your state has consistently submitted data to the National 911 Profile Database, and that particular database has been very useful to your colleagues in other states, as well as those of us at the federal level, as we try and figure out where everyone is relative to each other and what kinds of resources you need. Last, I just want to make a pitch for investing in your people. I think for a lot of 911 agencies, their most expensive cost item is their people. And to me, that makes sense because they are the most valuable resource that you have. We have tried to develop resources for you at your behest. If you go to 911.gov, you will find guidelines for minimum training that have been adopted by all of the major 911 national organizations. You will also find information there to help you, what we call Celebrate the Saves. One of our current projects is CPR Lifelinks, and people have come up with really innovative ways to recognize the really important work that all of the telecommunicators do. And I know we all really need that right now. Last but not least, we have also we're starting to develop resources for the reclassification or the classification of telecommunicators in the Bureau of Labor Statistics and OMB classification system. For example, we have a template job description there because they really rely on objective data for that classification. And I'll just share with you one of the things they found when they pulled randomly 1,000 job descriptions. A lot of them were older than the people under the headset. That is not on BLS, that's on us. And I know that the Torres bill is still out there, but Plan B is to work with BLS to figure out what data they need to make sure that telecommunicators are accurately classified. Well, a lot of that really depends on us to make sure the data is available to them. So all of the things that I've mentioned are on 911.gov. As you move forward with your strategic workshop, please let us know if we can help you. Good luck, stay safe, and be well. Thank you so much. My name is Lori.
All right. Thank you for that video, Maureen, and bringing that up for us. I think those were some encouraging words from Lori Flaherty there about the reclassification and just some of the resources that are available to us PSAPs out there at the National 911 Office. For our last video, we're going to share some highlights of a national panel discussion that involved our own Scott Ekberg, along with two other individuals from the United States. And they're going to talk a little bit about Kansas, for us, how Kansas is implementing NG 911 changes through statewide deployment and local implementation. And I believe after this video, we'll get some updates from Scott Ekberg on what is currently happening in Kansas with the 911 Coordinating Council. So if we would go with the last video.
And we're going to be talking about enabling change at the statewide level with three special guests. First, we have Budge Courier, ENP. He's the 911 Emergency Communications Branch Manager. Our third guest is Scott Ekberg, who's the Next Gen 911 Administrator for Kansas 911. And last but not least, we have Leslie Sticht. She's the E911 Technical Engineer for the Minnesota Department of Public Safety, Emergency Communication Networks Division. And it's amazing to have this time together with these powerhouse minds. And we're going to be talking about some very high-minded questions. And to start us off, I want to talk about the biggest challenges that we face as an industry at this moment?
I think one of the biggest challenges that we face, and I think this is true probably nationwide, is the turnover in PSAP personnel. It creates a huge challenge to keep training in front of people as the turnover moves them in and out. And which with each group of new PSAP personnel, as they move in, their expectations and what they see as important changes as well. And so you're in a constant state of flux in what do the PSAPs need, what do they want in trying to provide that technology.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So we have bridging the gap from Leslie's perspective. We have the barriers, the legacy mindsets, the technology barriers that will help us bridge the gap or prevent us from bridging the gap. And then there's just the turnover problem, which we all know full well about. And I'm curious, we'll go back to Leslie for this question. Where do you think, Leslie, innovation is coming from to address these challenges? Who must or what entity must drive innovation to address these challenges in our industry?
You know, right now, next generation of users.
Love that. Great perspective. And Scott, what would you say that we are being forced to learn as an industry now that we can take into the future?
I would say that the number one thing that we have learned here in Kansas is that Next Generation 911 is much more of a team effort than Legacy 911 was. With Legacy 911, you know, each of our PSAPs dealt with the vendor, they got their equipment, and they answered 911 calls. Next Generation 911 really doesn't work in that model very well. And so it's now a collaboration between the local PSAPs, the state 911 coordinating council, the vendors, and network providers and service providers, and you all have to come together and work together in order to move a single project forward. And I think that's been the biggest lesson that we have learned is it takes that collaboration with that whole group of people in order to successfully navigate through the minefield.
And it's so interesting to see how the industry has evolved since the first 911 call was placed over 50 years ago now. And we're really being forced to come together as one. And it's so challenging because there's all these local differences, state level differences. But well said. And I'm curious, Leslie, what's your perspective on this? The same question. What, from your perspective, are we being forced to learn now today to take into the future for the betterment of the industry, for the betterment, and really, since we're all in the business of saving lives, for the betterment of the communities that we serve?
Absolutely, and I agree 100% with what Scott said there. What we are being forced to learn right now is truly what big picture planning is about, right? So you need your immediate view, and you need your 6-month view, your 2-year view, and your 5-year view, and bringing those old technology to the new technology so that nobody gets lost is very critical, very important, and we're
Thank you so much, Leslie. And Sponge, since we have some time, I'd love to throw this question your way as well, because I just love your perspective on this matter. What are we being forced to learn now that we can take into the future?
So when we first did our Next Gen 911 plan in California, which admittedly is quite aggressive, I met with each vendor individually. As a matter of fact, it was NENA 2018. And every single vendor, with maybe a couple of exceptions, told me what you're doing cannot be possible. And then I would ask them why. They would give me a reason. And then I came back to my team and I said, okay, here's the reasons why they say we can't do this. Let's develop workarounds for every single one of these, and let's make this happen.
Thank you all for these wonderful perspectives. Budge, Scott, and Leslie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Back to you, Josh.
All righty, thank you very much. At this point, I will go ahead and turn it over to Scott for him to provide some updates from the Kansas 911 Coordinating Council's perspective. So Scott, let's tell all these individuals what they are expecting to hear, I suppose.
Scott, I think you're on mute.
Is that better?
Yes, thank you, Scott.
Sorry about that. All right. Thank you, Josh. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our first ever virtual admin training day. We would much rather be doing this in person and face to face with y'all, but I guess this is our new reality, and we have to make the best of it. So we'll try and muddle through and do our best with this today.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to take just a few minutes this morning to provide just a few updates on various projects. The first update is the council has added 2 additional contract positions to our support staff. RFPs went out for that back last month, and those positions the contracts have been awarded for those positions. And the first position is a second 911 liaison position to break up the state so Lori doesn't have to try and cover the entire state and all of the PSAPs. That second liaison position will be dealing primarily with the PSAPs in the south. Lori will take the ones on the north host, and obviously they will work together and you know, they're not tied to their geographical boundary at all, but that will be the primary split of the duties. And the person that was successful in bidding for that position was Angela Murphy. Angela was the director at Allen County 911 for many years. She is currently the president of both Kansas APCO and Kansas NENA. And both of these positions became effective November 1st. So Angela is on board and will be reaching out to the PSAPs to make introductions and start helping in any way that she can. The second position that we developed is a communications and training coordinator position. The duties of that will be to improve the communications both internally and externally for the council throughout the state and also through national outreach as well. And the individual that was successful in the contract award for that position was Michelle Abbott. Michelle started out in Marion County as the director there, moved to Hutch Reno, was the director at Hutch Reno for several years, then took a position with Butler County for a short period of time before she decided to put in her bid for this position. And Michelle also started on November 1st, and you'll be hearing more from her going forward. Next project is the status of the statewide system. This little graphic illustrates the build out of the statewide system. It begins in August of 2015 and then shows you January and May of each year after that to reach this build out that we currently have. So the status today, which changed from the last slide on that graphic that I just showed you, this is what we look like. We have Coffee, Osage, Geary, and Doniphan County who are all in the install queue. We have Crawford and Douglas who have both indicated a high likelihood that they'll be coming on. We have Marshall County who have indicated an interest in the system, and we'll be working with them to try and get them over the hump and get them to make the decision. And if we get all of those, I think what we're looking at by the end of 2021, the state will look pretty much like this. The light green is the MARC region. They will continue to operate their own system there, and we will look to interface their system and our system for seamless transfers across the line. Marshall County, still kind of up in the air at this point, and then Lynn and Brown have not given any indication that they want to come onto the system. We will continue to try and persuade them. But I don't know that any of us, when we started this project back in 2015, I don't know if any of us believed that we would be so close to a full statewide system at this point, like we are. So it's kind of exciting. Okay. Next project, the Nimbus CAD project. We have currently put that project on hold due to the problems that we've experienced with the migration to I-3 routing and Radius Plus simultaneously. That calling party number not being present in the alley data has caused problems for both the PSAPs and for us in making Rapid Deploy work appropriately, the Radius Plus product work appropriately. And so we've just put a hold on where we are right now, and we're going to stay held until we have all those problems resolved and we have a good, solid deployment of Radius Plus, and it's working exactly the way we think it should and will. We get all those kinks worked out, then we'll start the Nimbus migration once again. Nimbus is going to provide all of the features of a Tier 1 CAD system. It's a highly configurable web-based dispatch platform and provides all of that functionality to all of our PSAPs in Kansas. We will have the ability to share CAD data through that Nimbus platform across all of the PSAPs in Kansas. We're going to offer a single seat of Nimbus to all of the PSAPs in Kansas, regardless of whether they're on the system or not. Radius Plus is built into Nimbus, so for all of our hosted system participants, they will get a seat of Nimbus to replace their current seats of Radius Plus, and we'll be able to share that CAD data then across the state. I think that's about all I had to say on that. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to reinitiate that project in early 2021 and start moving forward, but we will see how it plays out. Okay, this next piece is a cautionary statement just for all PSAPs on the hosted system to be aware of. When you're talking with a vendor about an ancillary system, such as a logging recorder or other ancillary system, be aware that any features that they're trying to sell you, which have a direct interface to the call handling system, those features have to be vetted and approved for use on the system before they can be allowed to connect to the system. That's for security reasons. We do not want to create a hole in our cybersecurity on the call handling system, which would put us at risk. So we evaluate and vet each one of those types of features, and only after they're approved can they be connected to the network. Anything that has to connect to the Vesta network, so that i3 recording, whatever, screen capture, any of that stuff that they're promoting to you, that has to go through an AT&T supplied firewall between the call handling system and the device, whatever that ancillary system is. If the ancillary system has internet connectivity, then we also require that you put a security appliance of some type between the internet and that system, and that's your device. Hopefully, those devices are already in place to protect your ancillary systems from the internet, but if not, you have to put that device in as well. The cost of the AT&T supplied firewall is $500 annually, and that includes all the maintenance and management support for that security appliance. If the feature requires software be placed on a Vesta workstation for it to work, then that software has to be approved for use by Motorola and by AT&T before it can be loaded on the workstation. So your vendor will need to work with Motorola and AT&T to get that software approved for use before we can install it on the Vesta workstations, just so you're aware of that. So the bottom line is, when a vendor's promoting a feature that requires integration with the call handling system, ask the vendor if the feature is approved for use on the Kansas 911 system. If the answer is no, then you know that there are hoops that have to be jumped through before that feature can be implemented. Okay, next topic. The Resolution Center, the 911 Resolution Center, is for everyone and every problem. From the council's point of view, any user of the Kansas 911, NG 911 system can report any problem that arises with any aspect of the system to the Res Center. Now, that being said, we don't dictate PSAP operations policy. So if your PSAP has instituted policy that only certain people are allowed to contact the Res Center and make reports, you'll need to follow your policy directive. We do encourage our PSAP administrators, though, to remove any such prohibitions from your policy, allow anyone to make those Res Center reports. Those reports are the basis for finding and fixing problems within the system, making it work better for everyone. And so the more of those reports we get, the more insight we have into problems that are occurring, and it gives us a better chance of diagnosing and fixing those problems on the system. To facilitate the improvement process, we ask that you follow up your Res Center report with an email to the Kansas NG 911 Res Center at googlegroups.com email group. When you do that, include your Res Center ticket number, a description of your problem, and any pictures or alley information or anything like that that can assist us with understanding and diagnosing the problem. When you send this email, the Res Center gets the email. Phil, our implementation technical support specialist, myself, Lori, And Angela will receive that email, so we're all aware of all the problems that are reported. And also the Tiger teams get that email at the same time. It provides them a lot better information to work with in figuring out, do they need to go on site? Can they fix the problem remotely? Whatever the case may be. So any data that you can provide us to assist us in diagnosing and troubleshooting the problem is greatly appreciated. Contingency and overflow MOAs. The purpose of those MOAs is to make sure that all parties understand that if you go down in a contingency situation where you've had to evacuate your PSAP or your PSAP has gone offline, the system will automatically route to your partner PSAPs if you have one of these MOAs in place, and we've created the routing policy in the EZInet. The purpose of the MOA is to make sure that everyone understands that they're going to be getting your calls in those situations, and more importantly, they know what they're to do with the calls once they receive them, to get them back to you for radio dispatch or whatever the process is that you set forth in that MOA. That is the purpose of the MOA. Overflow is completely discretionary. With overflow, if you have a surge event, you have people logged into your system, but you're just getting so many calls that you can't answer them all, then an overflow situation exists, and after a predetermined time period, the EZInet will present those overflow calls, the ones that you can't get to answer, to your partner. That way, instead of getting a busy signal or just an open ring, their calls actually get answered in those events. Every PSAP should have a minimum of 2 MOAs, one on the same host as they are and one on the other host. So across the ladder line, the other area code. So if you're 785, you should have one partner in the 785 and one in the 620 area code. Currently, we have 145 MOAs that have been executed, and we have the CNO routes built for those 145 MOAs. That's a good number, but it's not enough. If you have not executed, and again, the overflow option is entirely up to you. We don't require that you have overflow options, but we are going to require that you have contingency options. If you don't have someone logged in, the EZInet and the VESTA can tell that you don't have anyone available to answer those calls. For whatever reason, we want those calls to be presented for answer, and it's critical that they are. So if you have not completed your contingency overflows, then you need to get that done. Work with your selected partners and make sure that you have a CNO MOA, one on each host. Okay, that is all I have this morning. Are there any questions that anybody has that I might be able to answer? Okay, we have a question on chat. When will we start seeing the tabs on our phones for the partner PSAPs for VESTA overflows? The VESTA overflow requires an asset on the VESTA host, and with the migration to i3, we had to have 2 profiles for every PSAP, so we didn't have the capacity on the system to add multiple overflow queues to the system. We just didn't have the capacity on the system. Now that we are migrated to i3, we can go back and delete the previous profiles for RFAI. And so we can start building those out. But at this point, we're putting that on hold as well until we get this i3 CBN problem wrapped up and successfully dealt with. So I would guess that we can probably look to begin building out the Vesta overflow for those of you that have elected to go that route, probably second quarter or so of 2021, once we're assured that everything is moving forward. Until that time, we have set the timers down on the EZzyNet overflow for those of you that have chosen overflow, so that EZzyNet will overflow your calls for now. And then once we're able to build those Vesta overflows, we'll advance that time so that the Vesta overflow has time to function and work. Any other questions that anybody might have? If not, I think we can all plan to close out this session and then join into the next session. Is that correct, Mo?
Yes, Scott, what we did is we jumped on the session with Adam Tim and moved him to the lunch time slot from 12:30 to 1 Central Time so that you could finish and work through your questions. And so what you'll do is move to Radius Plus Signals with Brooks Shannon and Ronnie Miller. And that starts at 9:30 Central Time. So you'll leave this session and log into the next session. And what I'll do is, if you pay attention to your email, I will post a link to the 12:30 time slot. I'll reset your schedules. I'll put a new class in the system for you. And then those of you that have iPhones that need an external or a backdoor, I'll post those links too, so that you can get past some of those mobile device connectivity issues. So just pay attention to those things. And if your email address that you use to log in and self-register bounces back, just reach out to Program Desk at motivations.com or call us. The information's in the session and we'll answer your questions. If you need more information, you can also shoot a message in the system to all, and one of our instructors will get that for you. So I would leave this session and go to Radius Plus Signals with Brooks Shannon and Ronnie Miller, and we'll move Adam Tim, making the most of rapid change with rapid deploy, to 12:30 Central Time.
Very good. Thank you.